Good morning, everybody. Wow, that was a great little countdown. It was like being on board Crew Dragon. Super happy to be here. I think we've got a pretty good turnout already, judging from the numbers. The whole session just got kicked off by Charlie and Tabitha over on the other stage. My name's Richard Muirhead. I'm managing partner at Fabric, and Fabric has been co-curating, in particular, the Web3 stage here. I have to say, first off, that burden has mainly been borne by Anastasiya. It's the better-looking person sitting that way, whichever way it is. Very confusing. So, just quickly, without further ado, we're very excited now to be in kind of year 3.5. We did 2017, and back when we did 2017, I can remember actually being on a panel about AI. And having this sort of realization then and in the kind of breakout group, and I really want to recommend the great breakout groups and Q&A sessions about the connection between AI and, should we say, the Web3 movement and privacy preservation and so forth, and thinking about that quite specifically. And then we had, from the year after that, we had a more dedicated track to Web3, and I've been working closely with the team since then. Now, I think there's a lot going on, and it's going to be many more qualified people than me talking about these topics that are kind of reverberating around the world at the moment. But it is fair to say, one thought that I had at the weekend was that there are tribalistic tendencies that are innate to the human condition. That especially when you're dealing with people you don't know. And I think those can obviously be brutal and horrific at times, as we've been recently seeing. And my realization is that actually, because they're natural, although they can be overcome, it's not a question of just fixing them. It's a question of being continuously vigilant for our behavior in that regard. And I think that applies to this question of how we treat other people, but it also applies to how we deal with other people in the context of trying to solve problems and businesses. And I think that Web3 gives us a chance to really, return to that more harmonious kind of village type setting where you can trust each other intrinsically and collaborate, but on this unprecedented scale to address some really critical questions. So I'm going to turn it over to Anastasiya to talk about the kind of program that we've got teed up for you today.
Thank you, Richard. Well, first to start, it's definitely been quite an experience organizing a 30,000 people conference. Hats off to the technical team and to everyone who made it happen. You guys are definitely going to experience hiccups. I'm pretty sure we're pioneering here this scope of a festival that has been brought online over a matter of a couple of, I think 5 or 6 weeks. So it's been a pretty exciting time organizing this. Specifically, I'm very thankful to speakers for handling this many updates to the process. I really applaud the patience with us. But I'm really, really excited to see what we've prepared and actually see all of these sessions come to life today. We have an incredible lineup of speakers who are real leaders in each of their different fields across the board, from artists to writers to economists to Web3 crypto maximalists. It's going to be a pretty fascinating discussion. I think where we are today is we can see that our society is bleeding with inequality, with biases that are embedded in pretty much everything that we do. Our democracy, as we have seen now, is suffocating under the pretense of emergency measures and everything that's going on with things like the coronavirus. We are experiencing a major crumbling of our financial economy and financial system. And probably most importantly, the very planet that we're living in is really on a scary trajectory. At the same time as all of these things are happening, we're seeing this incredible progress being made in the Web3 ecosystem, where we actually are developing technologies that can address some of these problems. We're developing technologies that help us make privacy something that is innate to the systems that we're using, and still allow us to benefit from access to different health monitoring technologies, stress-resistant supply chains, and etc. But we're also seeing technologies that emerge that allow us to coordinate in better ways, in ways that we have never been able to do before, to not just discuss stuff, but to actually make things happen and take action. But the mission for the next 3 days is to put all of these technologies, all this amazing development into the context of what is actually happening in the world and the problems that we're experiencing, and figure out how we can make the next 10 years better than the previous ones. So that's what we're excited to do here. We're going to have Samantha Yap moderate the first day. She will be the MC, so you'll see a lot of her throughout the day. She's the founder and CEO of Yap Global, and she's led a bunch of crypto conferences before in the past. She's been advising and helping build PR strategies for a number of successful projects. So you'll see her very shortly. But before we dive into that, I'll pass on to Richard to share a couple of highlights from the amazing people we'll hear from today.
Thanks, Anastasiya, and I want to emphasize how much work that has gone in from, and particularly Anastasiya, to make this happen and to get these some great topics on the table here over the coming days. So, we think about the type of challenge that you can address with Web3 as being ones that are kind of in the long tail, if you will, kind of where not the kind of core areas that it's kind of very economic to address by applying a lot of resource, or indeed not the core areas where a couple of participants can get together and solve a problem, but rather areas where you require a lot of thinly spread data and a lot of thinly spread actors to collaborate in order to do things in a kind of codified and deterministic and with the help of computers, automated fashion. I mean, so this, encompasses everything from the decentralized justice systems that are starting to emerge. I guess, arguably they're probably still at the kind of dispute resolution stage, but with my own experiences of the law, I'm optimistic they're going to be able to do a much better job in time than the law has. That's partly because my parents, or frankly, our parents are, hence the experience. Sorry, no disrespect, mum and dad. And then also another area which is, it's incredible to think was kind of being proposed by Andrew Yang, and also you've obviously had the Bernie Sanders proposing kind of quite socialist policies in the US, and suddenly much perhaps not acknowledged even by the kind of Republican Party in the US. We now find ourselves with a form of UBI in the US in response to the COVID crisis. And now we find ourselves absolutely requiring the white heat of innovation in order to accelerate vaccine discovery in the face of the COVID crisis also. And we have, I think, some of the world's leading voices assembled today. Just shortly, and Anastasiya will introduce him, we have James Vincent, the founder of Founder. We have Cory Doctorow, the celebrated science fiction author. Benedict Evans, formerly a partner at Andreessen Horowitz, someone I've been in awe of his abilities of synthesis and insight and criticism and critique for more than a decade now, from his time at Enders and then at Andreessen Horowitz, and now fabulously back in Europe and joined Entrepreneur First as a venture partner. And Ilya Pulukushkin from Near Protocol, which is looking to actually, should we say, speed up alongside Ethereum and pull up there and perhaps be just as flourishing a developer community as Ethereum is as we move into the next phase of Ethereum's development and into this kind of polychain, multi-chain future. We also have, I don't know, Anastasiya, are you going to want to introduce any of the speakers, or do you want to leave that with me?
I think we probably need to move on to James. So we'll do the introduction, and then you guys will see everyone who comes up next. So the next person who's opening up the stage of the first keynote will be James Vincent. As Richard mentioned, he's the founder of Founder, and this is the person who helped shape and build the Apple brand over more than a decade, working hand in hand with Steve Jobs. And then he went on to advise founders of many other familiar brands like Airbnb and Snap. So this is going to be an incredible discussion. I hope you're all tuned in, and we'll see you soon. Thank you, guys.
Want access to more CogX videos? Subscribe now for free at cogx.co.